Hello, Satnam. It's me, Shakti Sundari, and making this Facebook Live today to speak about sacred sexuality and pornography and what I perceive as a difference. And the reason I'm making this video is because some of you might have seen I've recently been banned by Facebook from promoting my events, from boosting my posts, because my website was deemed to be pornographic. So I was furious about that, and I made a really angry, ranting video a few days ago. And then I've come to realize that actually this is a wonderful blessing, because it gives me the opportunity to speak to what I actually do and what I am so passionate about. Anyone who goes to my website will see that, well, you can see for yourself. From my perspective, there's nothing remotely pornographic on there. And in fact, I wanted to look up the dictionary definition of pornography, so that we're coming from sort of common understanding of what that is. So the dictionary definition of pornography is printed or visual material intended to stimulate sexual excitement. Okay, so there is nothing on my website that is put on that website with the intention of stimulating anybody's sexual excitement or to make money from that whatsoever. In fact, I would say that everything that I do and offer to the world as a priestess of love and sacred sexuality, as a yogi, as an ecstatic dance teacher, as a tantrika, is really to make the need or desire for the type of pornography that proliferates in the world redundant. I'm not going to fling around really heavy judgments and create more polarity and duality, or I'll try not to, and I haven't actually myself looked at pornography for a long time, although I have in the past, but I do know that it's a huge industry and people are making a lot of money from it. I did a little bit of research, so the research that I found says that the porn industry is worth about $15 billion annually, that it's growing exponentially, and that more and more people are exposed to pornography at a young age. I do object to that, and I do find that frightening, because from my perspective, the type of pornography that is proliferating has negative effects on us as human beings and on our society and our culture. I believe that the type of pornography that proliferates, and I would distinguish, there are differences, but the mainstream type of pornography that is out there, I would say, objectifies men and women. And when we're encouraged to objectify others, that makes it easier for us to project our shadow qualities onto them and see them as other, to see them as objects rather than to see them as human beings with hearts and feelings. And that is dangerous, because when we begin to objectify others, we can do dangerous, painful, hurtful things to them without feeling that it is wrong. So I don't encourage that. So I believe that mainstream pornography encourages objectification. I believe that it leads to bad sex and bad relating. More and more young people are watching pornography and they think that that is how sex is. Mainstream pornography does not portray real sex. And if a young man or woman watch that as their first idea of what sex is about, they're going to then expect that to be their experience and expect that of the other. And that's going to create all kinds of bad sex and bad relating, misunderstandings. For a woman, if a man comes to her expecting her to behave like a porn star or to look like a porn star, or vice versa, you know, there's a huge increase in young girls having surgery, labiaplasties, breast enhancements. They're taking away their pubic hair to try and look like a porn star. See, the sex that we're shown in pornography is not real. And I know that there's a potential for us human beings to be making love in a very beautiful, natural, ecstatic way that is truly empowering, that can actually change the vibration of the planet in bringing more love down into the world. And that's what I'm interested in, and that's what I'm interested in encouraging. So another thing about pornography, as I understand it, is that it desensitizes us. It desensitizes us so that when we are with someone, again, we don't feel sensorially as much, and neither do we feel as much emotionally. So I see that as dangerous. It puts us out of ourselves. So rather than being in touch with ourselves, we are looking at something outside ourselves. Now, what I teach in Tantra is to be very in touch with yourself so that you can be in touch with another. It's completely the opposite. Um, People have, it's been reported scientifically that there's an increase in erectile dysfunction in men as a result of porn addiction and watching a lot of pornography. I think that mainstream porn is related to organized crime. It's linked to sexual trafficking of women and minors, and probably also linked to the drugs trade. For that reason, I also don't support it. I think it decreases intimacy in relating between men and women. It increases secrecy, it increases withholding. Um, it's a waste of time. It can be when you get addicted. Now, I've worked with addicts. I've taught yoga to addicts, and I know that the fix that comes from drugs and alcohol is the same fix that people get from when they become addicted to pornography. So it comes from a sense of lack or loss or aloneness or a trauma or an abuse that's happened in your life. And the sorts of things that I'm teaching address that in a very, very different way. So there's a double standard that's out there in the world around the issue of pornography and sex and sacred sexuality. There's a huge double standard. Think about if you go into the Sistine Chapel or anywhere, any church, for example, and you will see statues of naked people everywhere. Is that pornography or is that art? If you go to a sex education class and you're shown a diagram of a vagina or a penis, is that pornography or is that sex education? One of the things I'm really passionate about with my work is educating people to what is possible for them, because there isn't sex education out there in the world that explains to young people and to adults the potential for immense ecstasy and pleasure that they have in their bodies, and the beautiful sacred ways in which they can make love with themselves and with another, and how empowering and beautiful that can be. So I do believe in educating. I don't believe in pornography in the sense of how it's being put across there in the mainstream. If you go onto the television these days, there's a show called Naked Attraction in which women and men take all their clothes off and choose who to date, based on naked attraction. There are many other TV shows. I don't have a television. I don't really watch much television. I watch it sometimes on the internet, but I don't have a TV. But there are many TV shows. Again, I did some research these days where people get naked. Is that pornography? Or is it, what is it? What is it playing to? So millions of people around the world are watching pornography. Millions of people around the world are watching television shows where there is nakedness and dating and sexual activity. So why is that okay? And then why is my website, where there is no overt nudity, there is nothing designed to incite your sexual excitement, there is some sexual information, which is very different. Why would that be considered pornographic? I'm really curious, really, really curious about that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do and why I do it. I'm coming from the place of seeing that there has been an imbalance in the world for many centuries between masculine and feminine energies, and that for many centuries the feminine energy, the feminine principle, has not been honored and regarded as equal with the masculine principle, masculine energies. And also, I'm coming from the place of feeling and knowing that there is an upsurgence of consciousness around the world and within us. And I see myself as part of that and wanting to contribute to that. And again, from where I'm coming from, my work seeks to bring back into balance and harmony the masculine and the feminine within us. And of course, if it happens within us, it's happening all around us. And at the same time, to bring a level of awakening to the masculine and feminine. My work is predominantly with women and with the divine feminine, but we can't, that can never be separated from the divine masculine. However, let me talk to the feminine. So, the feminine in all of us, men and women, connects us with our body and it connects us with our sexuality. And a key part of that is life force, Kundalini, Shakti, or sexual energy, which are all synonymous for me, which is the divine feminine principle in its highest expression. This life force, sexual energy, Kundalini energy, is an energy that can awaken us. Now, when it is not activated, it sits at the very base of the body and can be not really doing the work that it's here to do in the world. However, in another sense, this energy of the divine feminine Shakti Kundalini is creating everything in life all the time. So in that sense, my understanding of sex and making love in a tantric way is that sex is happening all the time in me and around me. The divine feminine and the divine masculine principles are making love all the time within me and around me, because the world existence is a cosmic making love between the divine masculine consciousness and the divine feminine, which is energy. So this is where I'm coming from in everything that I do. When we bring that down to the more manifest levels in the body, sexual energy, when it awakens, begins to open and expand our awareness. And this is what I teach. I teach Kundalini yoga, I teach ecstatic dance, and I teach women especially ways in which they can connect with and activate this energy and reconnect with their bodies, their sensuality, and their divine feminine essence. I see in my work the effects of centuries of oppression, repression, of the feminine and of women. I see women who have been abused, who have been traumatized, who have been sexually abused, who are disconnected from their bodies, who have felt shame and been made to feel shame around their bodies and their sexuality, who are acting out their sexuality from a very shadow place. And my work is one way that can support a woman and women to become aware of their shadow, to heal the shame and release it, to connect deeply with their bodies, to heal the trauma, to heal the abuse, and to begin to stand in their fully aligned, more conscious expression of divine feminine energy. And sexuality is a key part of that. It is the ground, the source of all the power and all the bliss and all the creativity within us and in the universe. That does not mean that we are having sex all the time, because that is to misunderstand the meaning of this. It doesn't mean that we are more sexually available. That again is to completely misunderstand that. It means actually that we become more empowered. And this is why I believe that there is such a fear around the kind of work that I do and so many other amazing people are doing, because the work that I do to empower women to really connect with their divine feminist sacred Shakti essence empowers. It empowers and allows these women and myself to awaken to our greatest potential as human beings, as souls on this earth, and to become aligned with truth and God consciousness. And then we cannot be so easily controlled by the matrix, by the patriarchy, because we begin to see what is happening. We begin to see the double standard that is out there in the culture, and we claim back our power. We stand in our truth. We stand in our love. We stand in our essence. We stand in our radiance, which is not for you. It is for us. Our essence and our radiance simply is. If you as a man, if you are watching this, feel arousal and excitement, that is yours, that is not mine, and I'm not doing anything to make it happen. Okay, so anything else? I'm just thinking, is there anything else I want to say? I want to see if there's any questions before I round up. Hello. Hello. I'm going to post a few things beneath this as well that might be helpful for this discussion. But I just want to say that pornography and sacred sexuality are two very different things. Two very different things. And my wish, oh, actually, I was going to show you some things and I was going to read you this. That's right. Yeah. Of course, I'm completely ad-libbing. Margot Anand is a very well-known Tantra teacher. This is one of her seminal books, The Art of Everyday Ecstasy. And here's a quote from this book that I really love. We live in an anti-ecstatic society based on the conceived separation between flesh and spirit. We are encouraged and taught to repress our sexual nature, to doubt our mystical and spiritual nature, and to fear whatever does not conform to conventional behavior. But when we ignore the sacredness of life and the possibility of living life ecstatically, we risk losing ourself, our soul, in the process. And this separation she talks about between flesh and spirit is key to the polarity and the duality that exists in the world right now between men and women, between above and below. And it's also part of this split that has deemed my work to be pornographic, which is hilarious. Now, I'm going to show you something else, and I want to ask you, is this pornographic? This is a diagram of female sexual anatomy. It's something you might see in a sexual education lesson at school when you're a young person. I think it's really important for us to know how our sexual anatomy looks and how it functions, because without that, we cannot take responsibility for our sexuality. As women and as men, we have to know our bodies intimately to have power in our sexuality. If we don't, then we're going to have sex in ways that do not please us. We're going to try to please others in our sexual experience. We're going to give our power away repeatedly in our sexual experiences. And this is what, in my understanding, the system is encouraging. As women and men, we have to take our power back and own our sexuality fully. And that requires us to know and love and embrace and understand our sexual anatomy. There is no shame in that. There is no ugliness in that. There is nothing whatsoever pornographic about that. And if you feel shame about your genitals and your sexual anatomy and your sexual desire and your sexual energy, that is a cultural, religious, societal, familial belief that has been put on you. You are not born with it, and it is not natural. I'm going to show you another picture. Here's a picture of female sexual anatomy. And once again, this is for educational purposes. Do you know so many women don't know where their clitoris, their vagina, and their anuses actually are? We need to know this to know what gives us pleasure, so we can teach our partners how to give us pleasure, so that we can pleasure ourselves, and so that we are not dependent on anyone else to give us pleasure, so that we own fully our sexuality. We don't put responsibility for somebody else, for it onto somebody else. I'm going to show you something else. This is a book that I have in my office, Tantric Love. It's by a very esteemed Tantra teacher, Ma Ananda Sarita. This is one of the pictures in the book. Is this pornographic? This teaches about sacred sexuality. So we talk about the chakras, the energy centers that are in the body, and how to connect with those different chakras and energy centers when we make love. This is beautiful. It makes lovemaking sacred, and it gives lovemaking the potential to be consciousness awakening rather than consciousness deadening. Again, this is something I'm very passionate about. It's actually not something that I do in my workshops, but here is another photograph in this book. Is this pornographic or is it sacred sexuality? This is a woman um, giving a chakra massage to a man. Again, another sacred sexual practice. These books are in my office. They've been in my office all my life. My children can come and look at them anytime they want. My children are 15 and 17. They're a boy and a girl. I've shown these pictures to them and I've told them they can come and look at these books anytime they want. I walk around my house naked. My kids walk around naked. There's no shame. And also, there's no, as far as I know, distorted sexuality going on here. My kids don't watch pornography. We've talked about it. They tell me that most of their friends do. So what I'm seeing is that having a very open, healthy, shameless household creates an environment where there's a lot of innocence. And again, this is such a huge misunderstanding. Your nudity, your nakedness is innocent. Your sexuality is innocent. It's beautiful. It's sacred. It is only the conditioning of religion, culture and society and belief systems that wish to control and own your sexuality, because it's the most powerful thing in the world, that would teach you anything otherwise. So in my household, where this has been the norm, there is no distortion, there is no shame, there is an innocence, there is a clarity. My children aren't even dating yet. Isn't that interesting, where some people might call what I do pornographic, that there is such an innocence in this beautiful place. And the final thing I want to say is that sexual energy in its purity is love. It's love. It really is love. And when you're able to tap into this energy and feel it flowing through your body, you don't need to be making love with anybody to feel it. You don't need to. I can look at, here, I'm going to show you. I've got this beautiful flower right here. This is love. And this flower is full of sexual energy. And it is making love. I can make love with this flower right now. I don't need to be having physical sex with someone to feel the ecstasy and the power and the purity and the divinity and the bliss of my sexual energy within me. And this energy opens my heart. It opens the heart and every cell of my body. So this is the difference, or some of the differences between pornography and sacred sexuality. And this is why the decision of Facebook to block my account is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you for watching. And if you're interested, if you're interested in what I do, I'm offering a workshop series on tantric meditation starting this Thursday in London. And I can post more information about that if you're interested. Thank you for watching, and I'd love to go and read your comments now. Much love and Satnam.